Hey, welcome back to Man vs. Weed, the cannabis review podcast for people that actually use cannabis. If you've never listened before, it's a show about my non-cannabis using wife unwittingly trying to kill me with legal cannabis products. Just a quick update on the Northern Lights seeds I germinated last episode. They are now about a week and a half old. I like to put autoflowers into their final home right away. This way you avoid any stress of transplanting. Autos have a short life cycle, and as such they don't have time to bounce back from stress like regular photoperiod plants. I also don't do a lot of topping or anything else that might stress the plant out. If this is a dated way of doing things, I'm sure I'll hear about it. So yeah, I put them in 16-liter buckets, and they will stay in these for their entire 9 to 11 week lifespan. For the first week, they receive nothing but water. Yesterday they received their first vegging feed at quarter strength. I tend to use half-strength nutrients anyways, as full strength is usually overkill. But with autos, particularly baby autos, I had to go with quarter strength. I give them a veg-leaning feeding for the first couple weeks, and then transition to a more balanced feeding, and as they start to flower, I gradually switch over to blooming-based feeding. Right now, they're about 4 inches tall with 3 sets of leaves. And they're nice and green and healthy. So stay tuned for more updates on those if you give a shit. So on this week's episode, I asked Robin to pick me up something good I can give a glowing positive review of on the podcast for a change. Given my reactions to her previous 12 or so picks, she didn't seem very confident. But she did it anyways, and we're all grateful. She's a good sport. However, when she got there, the 1 gram samples were in short supply. When the cannabis worker was asked about the lack of 1 gram samples, she said that LPs are doing less grams because the machine that weighs the cannabis can't weigh less than 3 grams at a time. Lol. And then proceeded to offer Robin a 1 gram pre-roll instead. Hilariously, Rob asked the worker how these 1 gram pre-rolls were weighed. Since the machine can't weigh less than 3 grams at a time. This inquiry, I'm told, seemed to break the weed worker as she just stared blankly at her. After an awkward moment of silence, Robin broke it by saying, "That's fucking weird." And she's right. It fucking is. Anyway, she had no answers, and they never do because they seem to hire non-cannabis using people for these positions. Many people are taken straight from the liquor stores since the government cannabis and liquor stores in BC are all ran by the same people. So yeah, she offered Robin the only 2 1 gram pre-rolls in the whole store. The first was Baker Street by Tweed. It was $10. Robin now knows from previous purchases that Tweed is trash, so she was like, ugh, Tweed, what about the other one? The weed worker assured her the second one was a different brand than Tweed. That brand was TWD. That's Tweed with no vowels. Turns out she was in fact sold 2 joints from the same company, pretending to be separate companies. This is what's called multi-level marketing. The shell game? Anyway, the TWD one was sativa, which the lady claimed was their signature proprietary sativa blend, which of course means that this shit could be anything. That brings us to my next point. Pre-rolls are trash. Period. End of story. Full stop. Pre-rolls are trash by nature. Sure, it's convenient in a pinch to buy a pack of joints, but imagine rolling a joint and then putting it in a tube for 6 months before smoking it. It's obviously going to be dry as fuck and stale, right? Those volatile terpenes we all love so much will be long gone by the time you smoke it. Furthermore, there's no way to know what is exactly inside that pre-roll. On episode 13, I found bugs and clothing fibers on a bud underneath the microscope. If a joint comes pre-rolled, there's no way for me to inspect the flower. So I can't look at trichome development or irradiation damage or contaminants like mold and bugs. There's absolutely no way for you to even be certain that it's even the strain that is written on the side of that stupid plastic jar it comes in. So for all you know, it could be floor sweepings from a 10-month-old grow. Pre-rolls are a ripoff. Never buy them from anyone. Ever. Rolling isn't hard. And if you can't roll, then use a pipe. So I started with the $6 sativa sample from TWD. TWD doesn't waste money on vowels, and they're able to pass those savings on to you. It came in a stupid plastic tube with a child safety lid and a bunch of reefer madness messaging on the side, as is customary. And then it's got the joint inside, just bouncing around, just freeballing inside there. The package claims to be 20% THC and virtually nothing else. Then I threw it on the scale and it weighed less than a gram, including the paper and the cardboard filter. The roll job, or should I say stuff job, since none of these are rolled, was not great. It was tight at the end and loose at the bottom. There was an inch of twisted paper at the end so nothing could fall out, so it was definitely always underweight. When I smoked it, there was just no flavor at all. I guess those terps had been cut out along with the vowels. The smoke was stale and harsh on the throat and lungs. I coughed after almost every hit. Of course, it has the foul gray and black dense ash that I come to expect from legal cannabis, and overall it was a very unenjoyable experience. The high was very mild and equally unimpressive, and the duration was also very short. It left much to be desired. I wanted to fire up the second one immediately, but I held off and I waited a couple hours to be sure I had a clean slate. When I felt enough time had passed for a good experiment, I moved on to the Bakersfield Indica pre-roll by Tweed. Now this one went all out and had all the vowels and everything. It was also 1 gram and claimed to be 20% THC and absolutely nothing else. It was packaged December 2020. So this $10 joint was no less than 6 months old. But that's just when it was packaged, of course. And who knows how long it sat in one of those state-of-the-art warehouses they brag about so much. Yuck. This one at least weighed in at 1.3 grams with the paper and the cardboard filter, so that's something. I guess that's the quality you expect from the more expensive of the two samples, right? Well, right out of the gate, it wouldn't even burn. While it didn't feel particularly tight, it was just very difficult to draw through. Kind of like trying to sip a milkshake that's too thick. I would haul and haul until my cheeks sucked in on themselves and then only get a small puff of smoke for my effort. Having spent $10 on the thing, at this point I wanted to tear it apart, take a look at the insides and throw it in a pipe and smoke it that way. Or re-roll it. But I'm reviewing the experience with this pre-roll as intended. So I continue to try to get through it. It tasted like shit, more specifically cat piss. A very chemi ammonia profile. But the ash, the ash. It was the worst. This thing canoed halfway down the joint in a long black snake-like ash that looked like one of those old shitty fireworks. I barely caught more than a headache from that one, so to grade the high from it, I'd say laughable. So, in summary, I'd tell you the same thing I told Robin after this purchase. Never buy pre-rolls. They're a disgusting ripoff and should never be consumed outside of being thrown at you for free at a 420 festival. But to examine these two samples, it's funny to me that once again, the cheaper option was the far superior experience. Now obviously neither of them were great and I wouldn't recommend either of them to your enemy, but it's worth pointing out just the same. So would I switch over from the black market to purchase this unflushed, overpriced, underweight, stale, 4-month-old dirtweed? Sorry Tweed, you're twash. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Man vs. Weed podcast. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter, find me at StreetVillain and follow the hashtag ManVersusWeed for all things cannabis. Make sure you like, subscribe, dab and get high, and I'll see you next time. Free the weed.